Here's the thing with trying something new. Sometimes things just don't work out how you'd expect them to. Or sometimes they work out exactly how you expected they might, but you were really hoping that they wouldn't. This was one of those projects. Oh, did I mention we're making a Ramen D20? The idea for this die was to have a D20 with colors resembling the bag from this spicy buldak ramen. Originally, the person that ordered this from me was hoping that I could get the flavor packet in there, but it was a liquid, so I didn't think it would mix very well with the resin. Just liquids don't tend to do well with resin, it causes curing problems. But there was also a little packet of seaweed and sesame seeds in there, so I figured that we could use those instead. I did figure that those might float, but they're not going to cause any curing problems with the resin. I also had some ground up chili peppers from an old project, so to kind of match that orange spicy flavor packet, I added a bit of that as well, just to give some color and texture. We decided to put some little bits of the bag in there for good measure as well. To get all of the colors of the bag, I attempted a dirty pour. So that is all of the colors in one cup that I then poured into the mold. I thought it was fun to have the black, the red, and the yellow all be slightly different, so I did the red in a shimmering color, the black in an opaque color, and then I actually did the yellow through an ink on top of our dirty pour, just to mix things up a little bit, and because there's not actually a ton of yellow in the packaging. I had enough resin, I actually ended up pouring 2 dice at once. I figured that if both worked out, the person that this was for could have their choice of die. You can see as I'm getting ready to put the lid on that I have to poke some of those seeds back into the mold. I'm sure that won't cause a problem later. The die actually ended up looking great, but I still didn't end up using it. A lot of organic materials like flowers or bugs or seeds tend to float in resin. It's usually not too big of a deal, it's still encased in the die, but if things really float up to the top, it can hit the sides of the dice. I sanded down a little test piece I made with some of the resin that had the seeds and the organic stuff in it, and found that the sesame seeds, they floated to the top of the mold so much that they partially got sanded away when I tried to sand. This can cause the surface to become strangely textured and can create a weak point that water might potentially get inside the die and cause problems. So that's not gonna work. But that's okay, we keep trying. I still wanted to use the sesame seeds in the die, so I had to figure out a way to make them not touch the sides. The easiest way to do that, I decided, was just to put all of the organic bits into a blank, which is a slightly smaller die without any numbers on it. The blank can then be put into the actual die, so it'll be set back from the sides a little bit. They're useful for cases like this where you want to include something that wouldn't do well right against the outside of the die, like pigments that have been dusted into the mold or fancy painted sides. So I made a blank with just the organic bits and the bits of wrapper. Doing those little bits in the blank really highlighted how much that stuff floated. So I poured the colors into a cup once again and attempted to do a dirty pour around the core. That was a mistake. I didn't really think through the fact that the colors would also get squished and mixed around by putting the blank into the mold, so it just ended up looking brown and completely covered the blank. Well, at least I have a good idea of what to do now. Like with my last attempt, I made another blank, but this time, instead of doing a dirty pour, I went and mixed up all of my colors separately, and then added little tiny bits of them into the mold before I put the blank in. I figured that as I put the blank into the mold, those colors would get squished up around it, and it would actually help all of those colors to swirl themselves. I've been making dice for 4 years now, I think, somewhere in there. So I've had a lot of practice in that time knowing how different materials might react, and even then I still have issues like this where things just don't turn out, and that's okay. It's just a learning experience for next time. You know, I went and learned from the first die that, hey, I can't just put the seeds into the die, I gotta make a blank. I learned from the second that I can't mix up the colors before they go into the mold when I've got a blank in there, or they'll just mix even more. By the time that I had learned those few lessons, I had it down, I knew what I was doing. A lot of my commission projects kind of end up like this. I end up with lots of different iterations of things, and that's part of the fun of the commission process, is trying something and getting feedback on it and trying something slightly different and seeing how you can change things and make things better. I also got good ramen out of the deal, so that's a bonus. And here's the final die. I even ended up having to change the color that I filled in the numbers on the die. The first go around, it ended up really light, and then I went back with feedback from the person who it was for and darkened that up a little bit, made it a slightly darker brown. Sometimes things work better when they feel like the right color and aren't actually the right color. Like ramen feels like a slightly warmer, richer yellow, so it definitely worked a lot better than the really light yellow. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I like how well you can see all of the seeds and things in there. I think that the colors did a good job of spreading out on their own, and it's fun that there's a mix of some shimmer in there and some opaque colors and all sorts of fun little bits to look at. Overall, this was a fun project, and it was a good reminder that sometimes things just don't work out the first time, and that's okay. You can always go back and try new things and learn from what didn't work and what did work to make something better in the future. I'd like to go ahead and thank the person that ordered this D20. It was a really fun project. I'd also like to go ahead and thank my wonderful patrons for making videos like this possible. I know it's been a little bit since I've made and posted a video, but I'm getting back into the swing of things, so keep an eye out for more stuff coming soon. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye! Oh, that's spicy. That's very spicy. It's very good, but it's very spicy. Very spicy ramen. It's good, but spicy.